Hello everyone. Today I'd like to discuss Seymour Hersh's recent article which claims the United States is responsible for the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines. I've included a link below for anyone interested. It is a very detailed account that has given new life to what is more or less a conspiracy theory. Having watched several reactions to this article, I get the feeling that if it wasn't for Hersh's resume, the story probably wouldn't have gotten any traction. Like the rest of the discussion surrounding Nord Stream, Hersh does not provide any proof in his article. What he does, instead, is to write a very compelling story that is consistent with what is known. It should be noted here, there is no factual evidence publicly available that would allow for a definitive determination of responsibility. Much of the debate over who did it tends to be similar to that of a criminal investigation where suspects are judged more or less on the basis of means, motive, and opportunity. Hersh makes an excellent case for blaming the U.S. on the basis of means and opportunity, even though the evidence is lacking. But the case for motive is just not credible. In a fascinating interview with Democracy Now!, even Hersh recognizes that the negative consequences for the United States of carrying out such an operation could be enormous, including, to quote him, some countries walking out of NATO. Jeffrey Sachs, another impressive resume guy, who has claimed the American government was responsible almost from the day it took place, is similarly left grasping when asked why the United States would do it during an interview on Unheard. I've included links to both interviews. What these show, in my opinion, is that even proponents of American culpability struggle to rationalize this action. It's no secret that the U.S. was opposed to the Nord Stream pipelines because of the risk that German dependence on Russian natural gas posed. But in September 2022, the pipelines had already been shut down by Russia. There was no gas flowing through them, and the Germans were already building LNG terminals to replace the gas from Nord Stream. In other words, in terms of American interests, they had already gotten what they had wanted ever since the first pipeline was built. Blowing up the pipelines would not advance any American interests. On the contrary, especially if found out, it could seriously harm U.S. interests. Of course, that does not imply the United States did not celebrate the destruction of the pipelines it had long opposed. There is no doubt that Americans have carried out some nefarious international deeds, but those actions can readily be rationalized in terms of serving whatever is perceived to be the national interest. And that's the problem with the Nord Stream conspiracy theories that blame the U.S. There's no good way to rationalize destroying the pipelines in terms of American interests. Keep in mind, what it would essentially be is an act of war against Russia and Germany, a NATO ally. Does anyone really believe that makes sense? I don't. So let's turn to the most plausible perpetrator, Russia. Like the United States, it had the means and the opportunity. It also can be ascribed fairly reasonable motives, covertly signaling a capacity and willingness to destroy an undersea pipeline would benefit Russian interests. There are many pipelines and cables in that area. Europeans might think twice about providing more aid to Ukraine because of the threat of further strikes. Alternatively, repair of the pipelines would always be possible, but it would probably require lifting some sanctions on Russia and active cooperation, both of which would undermine European support for Ukraine. At the same time, for Russia, there is little to be lost by acting. Russia had already cut off the flow of gas, and with it the revenue. If proof of Russian responsibility did come to light, it would hardly undermine relations with the West much further than has already happened. Personally, I think the timing was intended to implicate Poland, which just so happened to open a new pipeline with Norway on the very next day. But like all the other potential perpetrators, Poland has little to gain and a lot to lose by doing this. So if you believe states are fairly rational in pursuing their national interests, it is rather hard to suggest this was carried out by the United States. Because as Sachs notes, it's a little nuts. There are a lot of American policies that have proven to be failures, but they were pursued for reasonable purposes. That is what's lacking in any attempt to blame America for Nord Stream. A good reason to do it. Anyway, that's what I wanted to cover today. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching.